If you're wondering why nobody is hiring you to build their website, it's not the economy, it's not the competition, it's more than likely you. You're not being ignored by accident. Clients are seeing you and they're scrolling right past. And I know that sounds harsh, but if you don't fix the things that we're going to go through in this video, clients are going to keep ghosting you and choosing someone that's probably worse just because they show up in the right way. First off, who am I to even speak on this? Well, my name is Sam and I run one of the leading Squarespace website design studios in the world. We've worked with well over 500 different companies now on projects ranging from, a small build all the way up to builds for Fortune 500 companies. So I know what it takes to close clients at every single point on the spectrum. And I know how to run projects and I know what helps you stand out from the crowd. So what I want to do with zero agenda is share everything that I know about standing out and making sure that people hire you. So what I'm going to do now is run through the most common issues that I see and the mistakes that I would say the vast majority of people either just starting out or maybe like a year or two into their career or into their business journey, the mistakes that they make. And the main lens that you have to look at everything through is if everything else was the same, what would sway the odds in your favor? And what I mean by this is, let's say it's you and a competitor and you're both bidding or both vying for the same project. If everything else was the same, so price, your location, your skill, and even your portfolio, if everything else was the same, what would be the one small thing that swayed the odds in your favor? And this is how I come up with this list. This is how I position By Crawford, which is my web design company. This is how I position it to land really, really big clients because, you've all heard of the 80-20 rule. If you haven't, look up the Pareto principle. But once you've got that 80% dialed in, what's the other 20% that helps you stand out? And this is what we're going to go through. So the first big one is either you don't have a site or that site sucks. And you would think, right, that most web designers, in fact, all web designers starting out are going to have their own site. But the amount of people that I see who are pretty far into their journey and like pretty heavy hitters who don't even have a site is just mind blowing. So if you go on to, there's a website called Awards, so AWWW Awards, very clever name. And you look at some of the top talent on there, right? They just have links to a Behance or a Dribble portfolio. They don't even have a site. And so imagine you go on go on Awards and you're looking for the best pro to suit your business. And okay, they have a great portfolio, but then their competitors also have a great portfolio, but they have a website. They have their own website where they've taken tons of care and crafted this amazing site that tells you more of a story about them, even more case studies, a way to contact them properly, maybe book a call. It has all of this. Well, everything else being the same, they're obviously going to pick the person with their own site. So whilst this is something that sounds intuitive and you would think most people have, a lot of people don't. So make sure that you have a site. Don't just rely on a portfolio on like a Behance or a Dribble or something similar. Then once you have a site, make sure it's not shit. This is such a big thing. I think there's a saying, it's like the cobbler's children have no shoes or something like that. Like basically, the cobbler is too busy making other people's shoes to make shoes for his own kids or something like that. The lesson there is just because you build sites all day, every day for clients doesn't mean that you should neglect your own site. And this is almost a flex from website designers in general. Like, oh yeah, my site, I haven't touched my site for years. It's not even funny. It's just lazy. You have the skills and you have all the tools to build the best website because all of the input is yours. You don't have to take external client feedback. You can just make the best site possible for yourself and to show your skills, and yet you don't. It doesn't make sense. So take the time. It took me 8 months to redo my site with a new brand. We wireframed everything, built it out completely custom, but it was worth it because now that site, if you go to bycrawford.com, is you can't imitate it. It's so custom, and that is what helps stand out against competitors. I may have a very similar portfolio to, my closest competitors, but then the client comes onto the site and they go, okay, well, there's the difference maker. That's the 1% that's going to tip the odds in my favor. So to come back to the point, make sure you've got a site and make sure it's not shit, basically. Take the time and be proud of your own site. Now, don't overstuff your portfolio. And what I mean by this is a lot of designers will just put all of their work into a portfolio. So for me, I could fill my portfolio with 500 different projects. But let's say the first 200 projects from, the first 2-3 years of my journey, they're probably not going to be very good or very representative of where I and the business am now. So I had to make the conscious decision to cull all of them and only bring in the very best, because your portfolio is only as good as your weakest work. So realistically, you don't want to have any poor designs. And this is probably the biggest mistake that designers make, because it's your work. You just want to put everything out there and say, look, instead of look at the great work I've done, you want to say, look how much work I've done. Like having, I said 500 projects, like having 500, mediocre projects would be more impressive than a case study of 20 like world-class projects. Realistically, a client isn't going to go, 500, I'm going to scroll and look through all these 500. But for 20, they probably would. They'd probably click in, have a little read. If they're serious about hiring you, that would be the thing that tips the scales in your favor. So don't make the mistake of putting everything in your portfolio. Only pick the absolute best work and continue to sort of cultivate it like a bonsai tree. As you get better and better work, and that work really overshadows some of your earlier work, it's probably time to drop that earlier work. Because let's say you've got 10 amazing projects and the client's like, oh, this is great. And then the 11th is like just something just really, really out of place. It almost like snaps the client out of the flow that they were in about to hire you, and they go, ooh, and they second guess it. So don't stuff or overstuff your portfolio. Only pick the absolute creme de la creme. Now, this is probably the harshest one, and it is, you're not good enough for your price point. I see a lot of designers who they want to charge 5-10K for a site, and their skill set is only representative of a $1,000, maximum $2,000 designer. They just haven't built the skill set in design or client management or how to deliver the best service possible. They just haven't built it yet. But because they see everyone else doing it, they think, well, yeah, that's the rate for a web designer. And they'll maybe they'll close one job at that. And then they'll think, right, well, that's my rate. That is true to a degree. If someone will pay you 5K for a site, well, then surely other people will. But you are going to put off so many more buyers by not pricing within your skill bracket. So if you've been in the game, let's say a year or less than 2 years, so between 1 and 2 years, you shouldn't really be trying to charge 10K for a site. People can do it, but only if they're really good. And this is the mistake that people make. They want to skip all the lower paid jobs. They just want to skip right over it and go, to the top of the big leagues, let's call it. And without this, without all these lower paying jobs, you'll never know really what it takes to deal with the toughest clients. Because the toughest clients realistically are the ones who pay the least. So you'll never really cut your teeth, and you won't know how to deal effectively with higher tier clients. And they can sniff it out. They can sniff out someone who's not as experienced as they thought. And so it's a recipe for disaster, first off. But then also, if your portfolio isn't representative of a 10K designer, and if deep down you know you're not a 10K designer, but you're trying to charge 5, 10K, you're just not going to close clients. And this is what I see so much is designers can get this, not delusions of grandeur, but they think they deserve so much more than currently they are worth, I guess. Maybe that sounds harsh, but realistically, if you were to drop your rates to 1, 2K, you would clean up, you would close 10, 20x more clients. So don't cut your nose to spite your face, basically. Don't try and skip right over when really you could be having a field day within this low mid-tier market and make more. Yes, you'd be working more, but you would get so much more education through slightly more difficult clients, dealing with a more vast quantity and diversity of clients. And then when you do develop your skills and you do start dealing with higher tier clients, you'll blow them away. And then once word of mouth spreads around those sort of circles, then you develop the reputation. Then you're able to close bigger and better projects, and you've got all the prior education to deal with it. And then your income will snowball and will, what's the word? Snowball will do. Basically, your compound, that's the one. Your income will compound. So don't skip over. And be honest with yourself. Like, if your skills aren't quite there and you know it, don't try and fake it to such a degree. On the other hand, your prices could be too low. So after that impassioned rant about your prices being too high, now I'm going to go to your prices are too low. So oftentimes price will dictate the perception of quality. And what I mean by that is you have a handbag from H&M and you have a handbag from Gucci, probably the same or roughly the same materials, but one's got one badge on it and costs 10 times more. One's got no badge and costs 10 times less. Same with a watch. Like, this Rolex tells the time and looks nice, but it costs 20 times more than, I don't know, a Casio. Well, maybe like 10,000 times more than a Casio. 10,000, that's not great maths. It costs a lot more than a Casio. But anyway, they both tell the time. They both look nice. So why would an idiot like me pay so much money for a watch that realistically, you could just check the time on your phone? Well, it's the perception of quality. If you price something at a slightly higher price point, people will perceive it as much better, probably, than it is. I don't mean that you should go, oh, Sam, well, that advice before is a load of shit, and I'm going to go and now price 5, 10K again. Don't do that. But also, don't say I'll do a full website for $100, because you may think, oh, the client's getting a great deal here. But at such a low rate, that client's not going to respect you in any way. And you may as well have charged $500, because the difference realistically to a client is infinitesimal. From 100 to 500 doesn't really make any difference, but to you, it will make a huge amount of difference. So I would say if you're going to build a whole website, either do it for free or set a very strict minimum. So I would say, let's say you're starting out, there's no reason why you should go any lower than like $500 for a website. If you go lower, you will lose all respect. It's like if you get a cheap t-shirt from, I don't know what it is in America, but in the UK it's Primark, and you pay £2.50 for a t-shirt. You don't care about the t-shirt. If you get coffee or ketchup or whatever. You could wipe your bogeys on there. Doesn't matter. But if you get a $100, I'm switching from pounds to dollars, £100 t-shirt from, I don't know, Ralph Lauren, you're going to take a lot more care with it. You're going to respect it a lot more. So with respect of the previous point, don't be too high. And then this one, don't be too low. You want to come in at a decent midpoint. So what do I mean there? Well, you want to price high enough so you get some respect from a client and you have enough buy-in for yourself and interest in the project. But you don't want to go so high where there's this disconnect between your skill level and, what you're actually charging. Hopefully that makes sense. Essentially what I'm saying is find the Goldilocks zone for your skill set. Now, you have no social presence. This is something that I wish I had, but you can't really get away with it nowadays. Everything comes down to personal brand. So if we use my yardstick of if everything else was the same, what would swing the odds in my favor? Well, a social presence. What do I mean by that? Well, if I'll use me as an example. So if my competitors have an amazing portfolio, an amazing site, they're really good on a call, and so am I. Everything is even. Let's just say they even look like me. They even speak like me. Everything is the same, except when a client goes to research my competitor, whoever they are, they don't find anything else except their site. But when they research me, they see I educate other designers on this channel. They see I've got 500-ish tutorials on Squarespace, so within my domain. I have LinkedIn when I post every day. Who are they going to pick if everything else was the same? It's going to be the one who has more social proof. That's it. It's a small thing, but it will get you more work. So the actionable tip here, I guess, is start small. So just post on LinkedIn. You don't have to sit and record videos. Most people don't like doing this. I don't like doing this, but I know it's effective. We don't have to jump in at the deep end. Just start posting on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the most effective for B2B and business to business, which is if you're a web developer or a web designer, that's the business that we're in, right? So start posting on LinkedIn. Easiest way to get started is just post things that you're working on. That's it. We're working on this site. We launched this site. Just show that you're living the life of a web developer. Clients love to see someone who is just living the craft day in, day out. Again, if everything else was the same, are you going to hire the person who is posting about their kids or their dog? Or are you going to post the person who is posting about, did I say you're going to post the person? I don't know. If you're going to hire the person who's posting about their work, who we're working with, who we've just launched, the cool projects that we're working on, you're going to hire the person who is obsessed with the work, because why wouldn't you? It sounds harsh, but that's how it goes. And if you're on this video, you want to make more money, and there's no point me sugarcoating things or telling little white lies about how everything works when it just doesn't. So if you want to make more money, you have to be dedicated to posting about the stuff that you do work-wise constantly. Next up is, let's see, I've got some notes here. You don't have any form of educational content. Now, this is a tough one because not everyone, again, wants to get on camera. So I would say you probably don't have to do this, but if you can record educational content, like maybe not like this, but maybe like I do on my other channel, that puts you on such a pedestal for clients you wouldn't believe. So I've had, I want to say over 100K in the past 18 months of leads come through my YouTube channel. Not this one, the other one, of people looking at a tutorial and going, actually, I'm just going to hire this guy. So I've had a client who's had 3 sites off me, and that alone has been about 35K. Then I've had maybe 20, 25 call bookings, and then I don't know, maybe closed 10 of those. So the potential just for inbounds is amazing. But when a client is assessing all the proposals that they've had for a project, they're gonna look you up. And if you're the only one who is speaking on camera about the thing you're pitching about, you automatically get like, I don't know, a couple of turbos strapped to you, and you go right to the top of the proposal pile because you are demonstrating practical knowledge of whatever industry or niche that you're in. So for me, it's Squarespace. I am demonstrating 500 times that I know the ins and outs of everything about the platform. I teach roughly, it's about 25 to 30,000 viewers. So I teach all these people every single month about Squarespace. That puts you head and shoulders above your competition if they're not doing it. So if you can, it's tough. I mean, I hate speaking on camera still. But if you can do it, educational content is huge when you're pitching. And if you want to land more clients, there's not many more effective things that you can do, to be honest. Next up is you are scared of calls. So most web designers, by default, we're going to be quite introverted. We want to be behind a screen, just moving pixels and code and whatever. And so we don't want to do the sales aspect. We kind of just want to get on with our job. But sales calls are the number one most effective way to close a client. When I speak to, like, let's say, people join Six Figure Design Club and they come in and they're like, so what do you say to a client to close them? And I'm like, hang on, what do you mean? And they're like, well, what's the email sequence to close a client? And the question I ask them is, how on earth can you expect to close 10, 20K leads without even speaking to them face to face, not even face to face, on, over Zoom or over Google Meet or whatever? How do you think that looks from a client perspective? Swap the roles. If you're about to drop 20K on a site, are you just going to email this person, or do you want to talk to them, get to know them, flesh out an actual plan together? And they go, oh, hadn't thought of that. And to be fair, you don't know what you don't know. So until you've gone through that exercise, I get it. You just think, well, I know what I'm doing and I know how good I am. Clients don't. Clients can see your portfolio, they can see all your stuff online, but until they speak to you, they can't make a decision. So you need to have a Calendly or a cal.com or some form of booking page where people can book 15 minutes with you to chat about the project. Then you need to know how to run a call. So ideally, your lead is inbound or warm. They know they want a site, and they know that you are the expert in that industry. So for me, it's just Squarespace. Like, that's my niche, and they know they want a Squarespace site. And all you have to do on a call is not sell yourself. I could do a full video on this, but if you go to the doctors and you go in, let's say you've got itchy armpits and you think you've got an infection. I don't know where that came to mind. I haven't got itchy armpits, but you go into the doctor, right? And you sit there and you fidgeting about. The doctor doesn't go, I'm a great doctor. I've got a doctorate and I went to university for 8 years. You're gonna go, yeah, I don't care. I just want to say that I've got itchy armpits and I need some like talc or something. Think of it like that. So I just call it the doctor's approach, right? You come onto a call with a client. Actually, they're coming onto the call with you. This is your domain. So they come in and you go, hey, how are you? How's things? Whereabouts are you based? Chit chat, whatever. And then you go, okay, so how can I help? Mind blowing. How can I help? But the thing is, if you don't know how to operate a call, then you're just going to panic and you're going to fall over your words. You're going to try and sell yourself, and the client's going to go, whoa, hang on, are you desperate for work or something? Like, what's going on? And it's going to put them off immediately. So all you got to do is go, how can I help? and then let the client speak. So actually, another thing that I say is tell me a little bit about you, a little bit about the business, and then how you think I can help. So you're already positioning yourself as the solution. And then you just let the client speak and speak and speak. All you're doing is cool, cool, cool. That's it. It's the easiest process possible, but so many people will just mess it up. So just make sure that you ask the question, you sit back, nod your head and go, okay, cool. And then all you got to do is say, okay, great. Sounds like we can do this. No problem. It's as easy as that. Then you just need to make sure you outline the next step. So I'm going to send over the onboard form. Once the onboard form comes back, I'll send you a proposal and get started. Like, there shouldn't be any question of price, shouldn't be any question of whether you can do it or not. It should just be, yep, cool, like, we're done. That is how it should be framed. There shouldn't be any friction. There shouldn't be any suggestion that you are not the person. You don't need to sell yourself whatsoever. You are the expert. You are going to solve their problems. That's how you run a call. So don't be nervous going on a call, because you don't even have to say anything. And I mean, that's like going to someone who's just like, I don't know, lost a parent and going, oh, don't be sad. I know you'll be nervous, but there is no need to get so in your head about a call where you're going to be saying maybe 10% of the words. The rest is just going to be the client just dumping their whole life onto you. And that's fine. As long as you nail that start, which is easy enough to do, and the finish, that's it. So make sure that you're hopping on calls. Do it. I do mine Monday to Thursday, 3 p.m. till about 8 p.m. only because, you know, I'm greedy and I want to get as many calls in as possible. But just get something that fits your schedule and make sure it covers as many time zones as possible. So for me, I'm in the UK. 3 p.m. will cover UK and Europe, so 3 p.m. till 5 p.m. And then 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. will cover, I think is it East Coast? It's a lot of the US anyway, because I think I always just do it from New York, so New York's 5 hours behind the UK. So I'm like, okay, 3 p.m. everyone's just getting into work, or maybe it's 2 p.m. 2 p.m. everyone's getting into work. Okay, so from 2 till 8, you know, I've got enough time. If you are in the US, maybe you need to do 9 a.m. till 1 p.m., something like that. Find something that works for you, but make sure you make time for calls, because if you're trying to scale and close clients, you need to be taking calls. It's as simple as that. Next up, we've got SEO. So a lot of designers, developers, they are not SEO pros. God knows that I'm not. I am an SEO buffoon. I just have a really good team around me. So probably the most crucial inbound lead channel is going to be search engine optimization. So coming up on Google, coming up on bloody Bing if you want, but then also showing up now on LLMs. So is it large language models? Just ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, basically. So if you are not doing this, you are already behind. I've had so many leads now come to me and I'll go, oh, so I saw you booked in for a call. Where did you even find me? And they're like, oh, ChatGPT. And I was just like, whoa. It opens your mind, or it opens your eyes to just how crucial this is, that people are they're having a conversation with ChatGPT. So they'll be like, hey, I'm looking for a Squarespace Pro. And ChatGPT will be like, okay, great. What do you want to see from this Pro? That's my ChatGPT impression. And then they'll go, okay, I want someone who is in the UK, who is the best and has brown hair, whatever. And it will pluck me out. But you've also got to think of the industries. You've got to think of the location. You've got to think of specific skill sets. Maybe there's some business owners who want female-led businesses. Maybe they want a certain award won. Maybe they want someone who does consulting. There's all these things that you need to put into your website copy and the structure of your website to be ranking on not just search engines, but AI search engines as well. So I'm not going to pretend that I know how to do it. I have a great team, but all I can say is look into it, because this is the way search is going. AI powered search is going to be the future. Like, the future's already here. It is happening right now. So do that, because you will get maybe 5-10x the amount of leads that you already do if you nail it. It's just, it's been mind blowing for me, and I'm trying to tell everyone that will listen, this is the way. This is the way to get a shit ton of leads, essentially. Now, next up is niching. So I spoke a little bit about industries and my niche is Squarespace, blah, blah, blah. But the issue that caps out most designers is they want to design for a certain type of client. And I just don't think that this is the way to be. Because let's say you are already platform dependent. So for me, it's Squarespace. I can't go, I'm a Squarespace designer for business owners over 50 years old who are from England and run bricklaying businesses. But this is what people want to do. And if we simplify it even further, I'm a Squarespace designer who designs websites for sports institutions. There's just not a large enough pool. I think maybe you have to look at it like a Venn diagram. You got Squarespace and then sports institutions. In the middle, you've got about 5 clients ever. Whereas if you separate them, you can either be a designer for sports institutions or Squarespace. You know, they don't connect, they don't overlap. You've got to be one or the other. So you've either got to design for an industry or you've got to design for a platform. I think platform is the best way to go. And so I'm on Squarespace. You could be the best WordPress developer. You could be the best Webflow, Wix, Framer, bloody Weebly, whatever. But don't niche further. There should only be like one level of niche. There shouldn't be like a sub niche as well, because then it becomes a pigeonhole. And this is, I'm actually very passionate about this, because I see it far, far too often in Squarespace. People are obsessed with the idea of designing only one type of site for one type of client. And there's just not enough to go around. If you are in Squarespace, there is enough to go around for everyone to make just ludicrous amounts of money. But a lot of people will teach, no, you need a niche, you need a type of website. Well, why? It doesn't make any sense. If you can design a site for a dog kennel, it's the same building blocks as a site for, I don't know, a zoo or a car dealership or a real estate agent. It's all blocks and sections and colors and fonts and code. What's the difference? There isn't any difference. And so you're putting this ceiling in place that's really bloody low for no reason other than, I need a niche. You don't need a niche. Well, you do, but it's got to be one or the other. You either design for an industry or a platform. Don't do both. If you are currently focused on one platform and one industry, I challenge you to remove the industry and just start designing for anyone who wants a site on your chosen platform. Come back to me in 6 months and you'll have 5-10x your income easily. And you can comment below and, you know, see if you've done it. I would assume we'll have a good few comments after 6 months. Now, what else have we got? Your pitching sucks. So most people, they pitch and they'll pitch too much. So I'll be honest, often when I pitch, it's just a booking link. I'll say, hey, looks exciting. Would love to help bring it to life. Here's my call booking link. Let's discuss. Because there's no point doing lots and lots of back and forth over messages with a client when you could just hop on a 15-minute call, get them to do the onboard form, close them. Whereas people, they want to do everything via message. It takes a week. It takes way, way longer than it should. And then there's not this trust and buy-in from a potential client. And oftentimes they'll lose to someone who just hops on a call. Like, it's just, It's mind-boggling, frankly, how many people want to do this. But the mistake that people make in their pitch is they make it way too long and they make it all about them. So if you are on Upwork and you're bidding on jobs, so a good place to start is Upwork, because they have all these different jobs on there, people looking for your service, and so it's quite a warm pitch. But they go, "Hi, my name is Sam Crawford and I went to this university and I design websites," and no one cares. Nobody cares. So what you want to do is flip your entire pitch around. So you want to start with, "Hi," and then you don't even say your name. You say hi, and if you can see their name on the profile, great. If not, whatever. But say, "Hi, name. Would love to build this out for you." And then ask a question. So be like, "I see that the site is currently on WordPress. Are you looking to move to Squarespace?" If you're on Squarespace. I've built websites let's see, I've built websites for not people like you, for businesses like yours. Here's a few examples. And then just send 3 links of, similar sites. Would love to discuss more. And you can say, "Do you mind if I send over some questions?" Or, "Would you mind if we hopped on a call for 15 minutes? And then leave it at that. Again, look at it from a client perspective. They're probably going to have 100 pitches. Do they want to read a novel from someone they've never even heard of before and they don't care about? Or do they want to see that you've read the brief, so acknowledged where they are right now and where they want to be? So with the question, do they want to see some work? Yes. What's the next step? Can I ask questions, or do you want to call? That's all someone wants to see. So when you're pitching on jobs boards, make sure that it's succinct, it matches what they want, and it's not all about you. It should be very little, if any, about you. It should be client, problem, solution, examples of you doing that, next step. Really, really simple. But much like calls, people overcomplicate it. They want to just spew everything out in the hopes that the client will go, or almost take pity on them. You need to learn to take a step back, assess what is actually needed, take into account the client needs, and then solve it for them. Solve those needs. That's it. That's all this business is. Next up is something that may sting, and it is you are complacent and stagnant. And this is something that I am always cognizant of, because I think, okay, I'm doing okay. Could I take my foot off the gas and maybe, I don't know, work a few hours less, do a little bit less pitching, maybe not pitch twice a day and just pitch once a day or once every other day. These are the sort of internal battles that you have with yourself. Every single day, once you get past maybe 2-ish years, once you have a certain level of success where you kind of know what it takes to close a client, you know what it takes to run a project, and your income's decent, let's say 10, 15K a month. Now, to be fair, that's amazing. It's top 1%. But what tends to happen is you will lose sight of what got you to that position. And because you've put so much work in that, that lead up to where you are right now, you will have a decent runway of maybe a year. So if you took your foot off the gas for a full year, you'd still be landing some clients consistently. You would be making pretty consistent money. But then all of a sudden, it would all just drop. And I've seen this firsthand with a fair few designers, is they'll be riding a high because they put so much work in. And then they get to where they want to go, complete foot off the gas. And what do I mean by that? Well, they stop pitching. They stop not caring about clients, but they cut corners and they start to argue with clients a bit more. They start to care less about the customer experience. And then out of nowhere, overnight, seemingly, they just drop off a cliff. And so this is something that you'll have to probably be wary of every single day until you retire from web design. So what I do is I keep a very rigid structure in my day. for certain blocks. So every morning I will go for a coffee, and then so it's like what's the word? Habit stacking, I think, where like you do one easy thing that leads into one difficult thing. So for me, it's I go for a coffee, and then for like an hour to 90 minutes, I will get back to all my notifications. So, I mean, that sounds like such low level work, but realistically, it means that if I have an email that comes through that's like, Sam, we need you to fix this hero section and move this about, that means, I've been assigned a task to do in that 90 minutes. So I'll do the tasks. I'll get back to, any of my students, any client fulfillment, any proposals I need to put together. Basically 90 minutes of the work, which includes pitching on Upwork, 99 Designs, and LinkedIn. Those are my like 3 main places that I lukewarm pitch, I guess. And then if I have any leads coming overnight, which is much warmer, I'll get back to them, book a call, great. Then I'm like, okay, I've got a bit of free time. So I'll go to the gym. That's, a habit I don't mind because I quite enjoy it. But then it's calls. So have a meal or whatever. And then the calls are 3 till 8. And then in between that, I'm doing little bits of work. So if I have an hour off, not every day is back to back with calls. So I'll do some work throughout. And then I'm like, okay, 8 p.m. Should I do some work or should I watch TV? Most of the time, I'll watch TV with the laptop. That just becomes habit. But what a lot of people will do is they will lose sight of those blocks. So if you get to 15K a month, you're going to be like, well, I'm making 15 grand a month. Why don't I just take today off? Why don't I just take the morning off? That is completely fine, by the way. Like, you can take the morning off. But the thing is, it feels so good that you'll go, ooh, I'll do that again tomorrow. And before you know it, it takes so much more effort to do those blocks. After maybe a week, it becomes so difficult to actually get back into that routine. And so standards start to slowly decline. For instance, on a call, instead of setting up a professional camera as your webcam and professional lighting, you'll just flip open the laptop and use the webcam. All these small standards, they will slip because things are good. So, maybe you can let things slip and you don't notice. But under the surface, all of those poor habits, they're going to compound just like all the great habits compounded to get you up to the top. So to come back to the initial point is maybe you're not lazy, but you probably do get complacent, which causes stagnation, which then causes decline. So make sure you're cultivating habits that are easy to maintain and hold yourself to those standards. That is what has allowed me to scale and stay at this very good baseline. So I think we're in June and we're about to do, well, we've definitely done $80,000. Ideally, we're going to do $100,000 to $110,000 this month. Now, I could sit and go, oh, well, I could take the year off, could take 2 years off. I've made enough in a month. But the habits keep the level there. Now, if you want to push it, if you're a weirdo like me, then you can continue to push and push and push from there. But it's having that baseline. And if you let that baseline slip, it's really, really hard to get back. And so if any of these things isn't dialed in, then you'll be lost in a sea of sameness. The thread that runs through all of this is you want to be able to stand out. And to do that, you need to do things that the masses aren't doing. So you need to focus on cultivating your portfolio constantly. You need to focus on those time blocks in your day that you stick to religiously. Even if you're not working 12, 13-hour days, make sure you hit those blocks as a non-negotiable. Make sure you're showing up on social media. If you want just LinkedIn, ideally on YouTube doing educational stuff. Make sure that you don't get lazy and you hold yourself to account. Make sure that you're hopping on calls and you run them properly. Make sure that your prices are in that Goldilocks zone, representative of where you are actually at. And make sure that you are ahead of the curve when it comes to AI, SEO. All of these things are integral to scaling your business. And if you're wondering, why aren't people hiring me? This is why. You need to absolutely crush in all of these areas to make sure that if all things were the same, then you have at least one difference maker that is going to make a huge difference to your bottom line every single month.